Hi there, folks. Simon here. This is the 2022 TAC Championship Quarterfinals Game 3 between Ali and fwwwwwibib. This is pretty interesting because Ali has won the previous two games in this four-game match. That means that fwwwwwib needs to win this game and game 4 if he wants to push this to a tiebreaker to still have a chance to make it into the semifinals. And fwwwwwib is the reigning TAC champion. He's the guy to beat. And from our prediction brackets, most people think he's going to win the whole thing. I believe half of the people believe he's going to win the whole thing. So that's pretty huge. If Ali takes this game, he will go on to the semifinals and knock out the previous champion. But like all of these games are in this tournament, they are played on a 6x6 board with a 15-minute timer with a 15-second increment, meaning 15 seconds added to the clock after every turn. Also, we are playing with two komi, meaning that black gets 2 added to their flat count score if the game does not end in a road. But also, you will note that just like the other two videos with Ali and fwwwwwib, this was not me watching the game and covering it live. This is me recording live commentary on top of the recording that Ali made of the game. So Ali is playing, and he recorded it, and now I am covering over that because it was at 3:30 a.m. my time. I'm not going to be able to do that. But I can do audio on top of his video. So you'll see him make the moves, but that's not me. It's actually Ali making the moves. We're watching from his perspective. That's why his setup also looks a little bit different. So without any further ado, let's jump right into Game 3 of Ali versus fwwwwwib. All right, looking like we're seeing Ali place down in A1. And opposite corners from fwwwwwib, so Ali playing as white, fwwwwwib as black. Ali going straight for that center control. And then fwwwwwib mirroring against it. Ali interestingly playing above, not playing into the center of the board, getting that center control area, instead playing above, opening up that spot to be able to go left and horizontal on that. But instead, now Ali's dropped that early capstone. And I think this early capstone from white is pretty strong. We've seen a lot over the past year of people setting up this first capstone from black to sort of retake momentum away from white. But I think this early capstone from white can be really, really strong. And it can really set up some good things here. And so now we're seeing black drop that capstone, just like I talked about earlier. Typically that would be the first capstone of the game, but white was playing that earlier on. But now black is building for this vertical threat, and it's actually pretty solid. Typically these sort of threats that go on from black aren't as good, but this is a pretty decent one. This is strong enough that white has to worry about it. Building off down there at the bottom, going for this horizontal road threat, but also trying to cut off black from going for that vertical since they have such a strong position there. I think black probably wants to play over at A4, maybe be able to cut down onto that A3 spot, or potentially play down at B1. B1 works as well. Coming up onto B2 would also make that same road threat. And both players have been playing pretty quick so far. We noticed that Ali is up at 16:20 on the clock. fwwwwwib's still above 15 minutes. Again, that's just because of that 15-second increment. Black plays up at the top at D6, setting up for the threat on the following turn, being able to place at either A4 or B1. Smart play there, allows white to not be able to just place in order to cut off his road threat. White captures over with that capstone onto C3. And I think that's an interesting spot here because he is giving up that vertical line and also opening up that area in d3 for black to drop something, kind of interrupt his horizontal. That's a good spot for a wall. Potentially, yeah, a wall seems pretty decent there. Maybe bringing the capstone over onto d4 at this point for black. That might work. To be able to capture onto d3 on the following turn and kind of interrupt that whole area. But white is looking for a much stronger horizontal line here, placing at e2 and e1, getting that really strong end area where that capstone is involved in that threat and that anchor point. It's going to be pretty solid if black doesn't do something about that pretty soon, which is exactly why we're seeing black take their time here on this turn and the previous turn to make sure they're making a strong, solid move that is not going to land them in trouble in the next few moves here, because it can be tricky. Because you might be tempted to play something like b4 and then b1 to kind of go for that threat, but white does, I believe, have momentum here. Let's see. b4, white plays. Nope, black has momentum here. But white would be able to cut that off pretty quickly and also make their own threats. So I think that's why black is playing at d3. Interesting, it's not a wall. But the flat works just as well for right now, I think. White plays off at e2, just ready to continue going for that horizontal line. Black may decide to place at f2, but it doesn't really do anything for them to place at f2. It's not really positive and offensive in any way. It's just purely defensive move. Oh, so instead we're seeing the wall at d1. And I also forgot Ali plays with horizontal walls, not the diagonal walls, and I really can't stand those. But yeah, that's what we're looking at. So a wall on d1, now that's a defensive move, way more so than the flat at d3. And I wonder if Wib was thinking that he was going to use that flat at d3, maybe come over with the capstone and make some sort of vertical threat on that right-hand side of the capstone, and then decided once white played at e2 that it was just too risky, and is now dropping that that wall there to come up onto d2. Now white is considering playing at f2 to continue that threat, kind of force that wall to come up onto d2. And that's probably what's going to happen now, is the wall's going to come up onto d2. Now white's going to play at e3 to continue building for that horizontal threat, potentially. I feel like e3 makes a lot of sense because you can come down with d4, but what that does is it allows black to bring that capstone over onto d4 to cut off your horizontal threat. And then now suddenly the capstone is more in the game, more involved, closer to their own threats. And I think that's why white is ultimately playing up here at b4, to keep black's capstone from being involved in that whole area. And I think that's smart. But now black playing up at b5. Now, okay, I think I see what white's going for. White playing over here at b4 and maybe potentially a4 is looking like they're going for this horizontal connection, maybe potentially playing for the horizontal above black's capstone. Also playing at a4 would be something like going for a vertical as well. A4 does a lot for white here, and it's a pretty strong, solid offensive move. It's not anything close to Tinue or anything like that, but it is building pretty strongly for the future. And I think that where white's capstone is currently, a4 complements it very well. Okay, so he does decide to drop at a4. And then we see a5 from black. Now, this is going towards a horizontal for black. Black able to place at f4 to make a threat there. Ooh, white's going to play up at d6. Now, d6 allows white to make a vertical threat in response to black's horizontal threat, cutting it off. Not super strong or anything, but it does build that situation up in an okay way. White's considering e3, trying to make it so making that horizontal threat makes a road for white, but it doesn't really have the momentum for that. Instead, going to place up at d6, and I think that's the right play here. This goes for the vertical threat. Also, it goes for the horizontal threat. Placing up at e6 is another threat. And I think that works out really, really well for white here. D6, I feel like, is the right play. It was a really strong move. Now, it looks like black has a lot of things in the fire, but they're just a move away, basically, from being able to act on any of those. They have to keep reacting to what white is doing. Now, it looks like, right now, black is able to make a threat, place at f4. That's a attack threat. But white can interrupt that and make their own threat at the same time, force reactions out of black that are going to be suboptimal moves, not really what they want to do at this point. And so I think that is white's play, is to make these threats and look a few moves ahead, see, okay, well, my opponent wants to make this threat, but if they do, I have a way to cut it off that gives me a threat and makes them have to make poor moves. And so I think ultimately that is what white's plan has been, and we may see fwwwwwibib just abandon that f4 spot altogether just because it could be so costly. They may play up at e6, for example, to try and cut that point off. And if they do cut that point off, white may decide to play down at c1, for example, make that threat. No, instead black comes over with the capstone, and this gets black's capstone involved. Not a vertical threat here because, again, that is a wall on d2. Harder to tell because it's not diagonal, but that is a wall on d2. And black can work towards that vertical threat on the left-hand side as well. Looks like, I wonder what white is planning here, because that move did do a lot for black. Like, that really helps black out and cuts off a lot of white's potential in the next few moves here. Now, what white wants to worry about now is black's horizontal threat, because black's got a horizontal building here. Sure, white's capstone can come and interrupt that a little bit, but that capstone coming up does not work towards much of a road for white, because there's nothing to connect it to that D file. So black now making attack threat. Placing at f4 for black would be a road. That's why white is thinking about dropping a flat there at f4 to cut that off, at least momentarily. If black goes for the placement at f3, and they do, now white cannot make a placement to stop this, has to make a capture, deciding to go with the capstone, which I think is ultimately the strongest move right here, is to play that capstone, because really all of the flat captures that would happen would just be replaced, filled in, recaptured, something like that. And so using the capstone to capture is the smartest way to get something done long term. But now black filled in there at c3, and they can go for this horizontal threat down below white's capstone now. So white's planning on dropping, interestingly, a flat there at e3, which, I mean, it makes sense because a wall wouldn't do a ton there. A flat does just about as good, and it doesn't hurt on the flat count differential, which both these players do think about from the start of the game. Actually, I'm not sure if Ali does. I know fwwwwwibib does. I'm not sure if Ali thinks about flat count throughout the whole game. I only say that because I know Ali, at least a while ago, was very much in the camp of road wins are way more fun and better than flat wins, and he will take a road win over a flat win often and sacrifice his flat positioning in order to go for a road win sometimes, and which is a risky play, and has gotten him into trouble a few times. But we see Black's response is actually to play a flat up at f5, which is interesting. And I guess that's to sort of cement that area in, make sure there's that horizontal connection, horizontal anchor point. Try and win some capture wars over there without moving that black capstone. Maintain that position. White thinking about making a capture over there on that right-hand side of the board. White is on 13 flats right now. And black is on 14 with the Comey. So black is up by 1, but it is white's turn, meaning that placing a flat makes it even. But the board's getting pretty full right now. However, it is important to note that because Ali won the previous 2 games, if he gets a draw in this game, he wins the match. Because there would be no way for fwwwwwibib to get even with him. So a win or a draw wins here for Ali. Draws aren't super common in tech just because of how draws occur and how you get them. So not super likely, but if that situation comes up, Ali could take that draw to win the match. Oh, interesting. I didn't even see this. Playing at e1 is attack threat for white. I did not spot that until just now. And that's what he's going for. F4 left is a road in the vertical direction. I didn't spot that a second ago. Interesting. There's just a lot going on over there, and it's easy to miss. Now, white did take a lot of time on that turn, because white was previously up by about 2 minutes, and now is below black in terms of how much time on the clock. Time management is a big thing in these tournament games for sure. They can really, really affect how you how you play this and how you come out. So black comes down, captures onto f4, which is attack threat for black. Now white capturing over onto b3 stops that attack threat, but is not making attack threat of its own. So that is just a defensive move, but it is setting up for a pretty decent position here. It's not bad. But black can now drop a wall at a3, and they can afford to drop a wall at a3 to capture that, recover, do some flat count differential moves. It looks like black played up at f5. What is white's play here? Okay, white making attack threat in the horizontal direction now, placing at c1. And so placing at d1 will be a road. So black's got to stop that, either placing at d1 or making a capture. Does decide to place. Now white can afford to play up above, maybe at b6 or something like that. Go for the vertical attack threat up there. Or try and solidify that bottom position, maybe drop another flat at b1, build that citadel. Or build a citadel up above at e6, also building up that position in a strong formation. But that b6 would work towards that vertical threat, which would put on some more pressure onto black at this point. Now also, I really kind of like a4 plus. It does get rid of white's anchor point. So if you drop at a3 and then do a4 plus, that's a sneaky road threat because you'd be able to throw a5 all the way over onto c5, which would make that vertical road connection. So that would be pretty cool. But if you don't make a threat here as white, black is able to drop a wall at a3 and use that to capture onto b3 and make some positive flag on differential moves. And not only make those positive flag on differential moves, but also to make threats. I think that a3 is looking pretty tempting for me as black to drop that wall there. So white dropping a flat at a3 could really help him out because it would also set up that horizontal anchor point for if white wants to make that a4 plus move. Now, I don't know if white would make the a4 plus move because that's kind of a risky move and probably not worth it, but I really enjoy those kind of moves. They're more fun for me. Like we've established, chaos is fun for me. Okay, so he does play at a3, and I think that's the really smart move to play here just because even if you take out the whole a4 plus move option, a3 really makes it so it's harder for black to capture onto b3 with a wall. But black dropping the wall at b1 now makes it so that vertical threat can be cut off at any point by that wall coming up onto b2. Not only coming up onto b2 to cut off that vertical threat, but also to capture onto b3 on the following turn to recover those captives. And so, yes, that was a good play from white, or from black, sorry, to counter that a3 placement. So white made the citadel up at the top right. Black does come up with that wall. Ready to come up onto b3. White brings the flat over. Okay, that stack came over now. But interestingly, let's say black captures it with d3. White can't capture it with c4, the capstone, because that would leave a road for black. So white would have to recapture with c2. They would win that capture war, but if black were to place another wall or move a wall or something like that into range of that stack, white wouldn't be able to do anything about it with that capstone because of the pin on white's capstone, which is pretty big. So it's a tricky move and it's risky to make that capture over there, but it does keep that stack out of black's hands, at least out of the hands of a wall for the moment. And so black's wall comes right, ready to capture up onto c3. White wants to do something about that to keep that from happening, thinking about capturing over with d6 left onto c6, which would be a road threat, which would keep black from being able to capture onto that c3 stack, at least for right now. Once black dealt with that threat, then it would be fair game again. So now white's thinking, okay, if I capture up with b4 onto b5, that unpins the capstone. And then the capstone would be able to capture onto c3 to keep it from the wall, or maybe even smash without leaving a road behind. Ooh, capturing there is a lot better. Capturing e5 minus onto e4, because that cuts off the horizontal threat, unpins the capstone, also makes a vertical threat for white at the same time. That's pretty good. That's pretty good there. I like that. Hasn't made that move yet, but he's thinking about it. And we see he's taken quite a bit of time to think about it. He is 3 minutes behind fwwwwwibib on the clock right now. I think for a brief moment he was thinking about bringing that c3 stack onto d3, which would just result in it being captured by that wall. But man, that would be brutal. Are you going to do it? Are you going to let that happen? No. Yeah, you're probably going to do e5 minus, right? E5 minus makes a lot of sense here. Okay, so he does e5 minus, makes that threat. Now, this is where we could see a capture war happen on e5. I don't think black wants to drop another wall here on e5. He's got two walls placed already. And while he might be able to capture that stack with it, maybe he will drop a wall. I mean, if he captures that stack, okay, he drops the other wall. He's really got to start cashing in on these walls and use those to make these positive flat count differential moves, or he's going to fall pretty far behind in terms of flats. Now, white's considering capturing down onto c3 in some manner to keep it from black's wall, I guess. Or is he going to smash? Is that... Okay, so that's... Oh, that's attack threat. That's attack threat spreading up. So if he takes that whole stack off of c2 and throws it upwards, so 4c2 plus 1, 1, 2, that's a road in the horizontal direction. And black won't be able to spread that c3 stack to stop it. He's got to do something else to stop that. So white has no fear of that stack doing anything. Oh, that's good. That is a clever move. So white's going to be able to recapture that big stack no matter what. But right now, white's making attack threat that makes it so that stack can maintain that in his possession the whole time. Oh, that's a clever move. I didn't spot that one. That's a good move. Ali gets Ali can spot some really creative sequences, and one of my all-time favorite Tinuay sequences, like probably my favorite of all time, is one that he did in a game, in an asynchronous game on the Discord server. And there's a history of that, and you can look that up. But it is so good. I can't remember who he was playing, but he makes this move that spreads, I think, a capstone stack along one edge of the board, which makes two tack threats, but two completely separate tack threats. What are you doing? Are you adjusting your music? Okay, he adjusted his music. But no, that his super creative moves are amazing. Oh, so black drops a wall. That is a wall. It just doesn't look like it too much because of the it's not diagonal, which is what we're used to, at least what I'm used to. So white immediately says, okay, fine, I'm going to capture back up with this capstone and regain that stack. And then white probably wants to play at b3 on the following turn to make that horizontal threat. That would be really good. But this is a threat for black. Black is now able to make attack threat. Make a road, sorry. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you place... That's a... Oh, no, never mind. It's not a road. Okay, because it's not diagonal, and so I thought it was a flat for a second. I thought there was a connection, but there's not. Okay. The P3 works just fine. My bad. Oh, man. And now I feel like black almost has to just bring that wall down. Yeah, just like that. Just bring the 2 e4 minus to stop that spread from happening. White's considering it anyway. Considering the smash. Okay, so that would be a two-pronged threat. Going vertical and going horizontal. That would be really strong. That would be really strong. Smashing that wall on e3 Yeah, that's a threat in two directions. The only possible way that black would be able to stop that would be to move 2d2 to the right onto e2. So we'd have to move that wall on d2 to e2. That would be the only way to stop that threat. Both of those threats, rather. Is he going to do it or not? That's the question. Because he might see something else. He might be seeing some other option here, or he's probably looking ahead to see what happens after the wall moves to d2. Like, what's his play from there? Because I haven't looked at that yet. Okay, okay. Does he go for it? Does he make the smash? Because there is just the one move. That's the only move that stops both of those threats, is bringing the wall to e2. So now we're going to see the wall move to e2. And then what's white's play? Okay, wall came to e2. Now this is also, okay, not a tag threat for black. White probably wants to recapture onto that stack again. Maybe? Yeah, I feel like he's gotta. Because if he doesn't, the wall gets it, or the capstone can come down and threaten it. What's the other play? Is there another play? Yeah, I'm not sure if anything works out besides recapturing that c3 stack. But he had to know that black was going to bring that wall over onto e2 because it was the only possible move that stopped both of those threats. Is he going to make a placement? No, okay, he does make the spread. So this is also a attack threat. Bringing f2 plus onto f3 would be a horizontal road. So black's got to stop that with a capture. No placement available. But that is a big stack there on c3. We see Ali scrolling through the moves, seeing how that all played out. Big stack on c3, a lot of black flats that black wants to recover. The capstone comes down. Is white just going to fill in at d4? Oh no, because he can't fill in at d4, because if he does drop a flat at d4, that's a road for black, so he's got to drop a wall to stop it. Or make a capture somewhere else along the line of that threat. Because bringing that capstone stack up, he can drop on d4 and then on d5 to complete that horizontal road from f4 to a5. Looks like Ali's thinking about dropping a wall there at d4. He does drop the wall at d4. It is really interesting to be able to see sort of some of his thought process as he's making these moves, picking up stones, planning out, making partial moves, things like that. It is really interesting to see that. And we also take a look. Let's take a look at the time. Fwib just under 9 minutes. Fwib at 4 minutes 20. So Ali at 4 minutes 20. Sorry, Ali is quite a bit behind in terms of time. What is the play here? So he's playing up above at b6 potentially to go for that vertical threat, and also that works for the horizontal as well. It kind of helps build both of those. So 14 flats for white and 14 for black, I think. Yeah. 14 for black with Comey. So they're even on terms of flats. But black plays now, which would put black ahead on flats. So if they flat it out completely, black would take the win on flats. Also, black has positive flag on differential moves. He's got a +2 move available to him with that capstone spread to the right. White, despite having that huge stack, doesn't have any positive flag on differential moves with that stack available because he only has his own pieces next to him. Okay, black building that citadel over at e5, setting up for potentially a capture over onto d5 with e5 to make attack threat, smashing that wall on d4. White's going to fill in up at the top. Okay. Maybe white's setting up to be able to smash that wall on c4, which would be a threat in the vertical direction. But I feel like, no, a threat in the horizontal direction. Sorry, not the vertical direction. To throw up onto c5, c6. But I don't think that lasts very long. I think it's pretty easily stopped, so I don't know how strong of a threat that would be. So no one's got attack threat right now. But white needs to capture here. Can't place, because if he does place, black can win on flats on the next turn by placing. So white makes a capture. Now this is attack threat in the horizontal direction, being able to capture up onto c6. Capturing on c6. So black might capture right with b5. Probably won't bring the wall up. Seems like it would just be inviting a smash. Though the smash would probably be really bad because it would let black's capstone get that big stack. Fwib down 6:40 on the clock. Ali at 3:40. So Fwib's still got a 3-minute buffer. And he's got to wonder how he can keep white from winning with this road and also maintain his flat lead so he can push for this board fill. Because it's pretty close to a board fill here. Only 3 open spaces. And black would be up on flats when the game ended. I'm pretty sure. So 15 for black right now. And 15 for white. Whew. This is close. This is a really close one. And he's using a lot of that buffer time that he's built up to think on this move. And I think this is a really smart play to think a lot on this move because a lot is riding on this. Again, if he even draws this game, he's out of the tournament and Ali goes on to the semifinals. What is the play here? I feel like coming up maybe with f5 onto f6 is what you want to do here. No, actually, that doesn't work. Oh, I am totally. Oh, I was missing the vertical threat this whole time. c5 going left onto b5 is also a vertical threat. I was missing that this whole time. Oh, wow. And c5 can also go all the way to a5. Is that Tinue? No. No way is that Tinue. Did he get Tinue with that? Where's the out? Holy cow. That's why fwww's taken so long. He was looking at the vertical threat as well as the horizontal when I had missed the vertical for probably 3 minutes. Oh my goodness, is there a way out of this or is this Tinue? Okay, I guess bringing the wall up onto c5 stops both threats. Is that the only play? Oh, I think that's the only move. I think that is literally the only move that stops this. But then what does Ali do after the wall comes up? Does he smash? Oh. Oh, smashing. Smashing is Tinue. No way. No way did he set up this Tinue. No way did he set that up. Holy cow. Holy cow. So yeah, that's Tinue. There's nothing black can do to stop both of those threats. Because the clincher for both of those is that capstone now on c5. Because he can capture up onto c6 to make the horizontal road, or he can capture left on either b5 or a5 for the vertical road. Holy cow, that is so good. I mean, we saw how I missed the vertical threat completely for 2 or 3 minutes, right? Now, fwww saw the vertical threat, and he's making a play here. Obviously, he knows he's lost. But attack threat for black, you know. But wow, that was so good. So, holy cow, so good. I could barely spot the vertical threat doing commentary. Ali spotted the Tinue sequence ahead of time. When he made that d5 left capture, he spotted Tinue, or at least I'm assuming he spotted Tinue. He saw that and made that move. So not only was he just responding to things and seeing those threats, he saw the threats before they even began and made... Oh, like I said before, Ali is excellent at making these creative moves and can make phenomenal Tinue sequences like we just saw. That was so good. Like, it doesn't seem like it was that good, but because there was so much going on the board, being able to spot that is so difficult. If we put that up in a Tinue puzzle and said there's Tinue here, probably not that difficult because it's isolated from the rest of the game, the rest of the action, and you know there's a Tinue there. But for him to spot that in the actual game, in the tournament game, is just It's incredible. So, holy cow, wow. But also, holy cow, wow, Ali just knocked fwwwwwibib out of the tournament and moved on to the semifinals. So, no matter what happens in the rest of this tournament, we will be seeing a new TAC champion crowned at the end of this 2022 TAC Championships. So, reigning champion fwwwwwibib has been knocked out by Ali in this tournament. Man, that was a good game. And that was an incredible Tinue. Phenomenal play from both players. Really, like, this is what high-level TAC looks like. So if you're ever curious and thinking, what does high-level TAC look like? It looks like that. That's what it looks like. But that is it. That's all I'm covering. Thanks. That's all I'm covering for this match. Sorry. There are no more matches, I believe. No more games for this match. They've stopped at game 3 since they don't need to play 4. Not playing that. But yeah, so Ali moves on to the semifinals. So thanks everybody for watching. Be sure to check out the description below for all things TAC, especially the TAC Discord server, which is where you can find all sorts of TAC resources like strategy guides and people to play with, and even chat with these competitors right in there. You can also play on playtac.com with those folks, or right in the Discord server itself, playing asynchronously. So thanks again, and until next time, have a great day and happy tacking.